The road leading to the luxury vacation home in Massachusetts was as beautiful as a painting under the summer sun. Amy Collins noticed her hands were gripping the steering wheel tightly as she squinted at the lush green scenery outside her window. In the passenger seat, her 12-year-old daughter Lily had earbuds in, completely absorbed in her music. "We're almost there, Lily. Just a little further to Grandma's house." Lily removed one earbud in response to her mother's voice and nodded slightly. A hint of anxiety showed on her face. Amy understood why. Lily had only spent a few days with her grandmother Eleanor at Christmas and Thanksgiving over the past 3 years. "Grandma must be looking forward to our visit," Amy said cheerfully, though it sounded as if she was trying to convince herself. When the GPS announced they had reached their destination, Amy took a deep breath. Her divorce had been finalized just 3 months ago, and she was mentally and physically exhausted. Her mother's phone call saying, "Take a little vacation and come to the cottage," had seemed like a timely lifeline. The vacation home stood on a small hill surrounded by pine trees. The large white Victorian-style house seemed frozen in time. On the front porch, Eleanor stood with open arms to welcome them. "Amy, Lily. You've finally arrived." Eleanor approached them. Her pearl necklace reflected the sunlight, and her elegant white dress accentuated her straight posture. "Mom, it's been a while," Amy kissed her mother's cheek. The faint scent of expensive perfume evoked childhood memories. "Hello, Grandma," Lily greeted her with a slightly nervous expression. "My, Lily, how beautiful you've become." Eleanor cradled her granddaughter's face in her hands. "Come inside. Tea is ready." The house interior was luxurious yet warm, with elegant furnishings. Amy explored the house, relying on childhood memories. Some areas remained unchanged, while others reflected her mother's taste in new renovations. "Your rooms are upstairs. After you put away your luggage, let's have tea on the terrace," Eleanor pointed to the staircase. When Lily went up the stairs first, Eleanor gently grabbed Amy's arm. "You look pale. Are you all right?" "Yes, I'm just tired. The divorce proceedings." "I understand," Eleanor interrupted her daughter's words. "That's precisely why you need to rest here. It's also a good opportunity to strengthen family bonds." Amy smiled, but complex emotions swirled inside her. During her childhood, Eleanor had been a perfectionist mother, always calm, expressing few emotions, and valuing achievement over affection. By the time Amy reached adolescence, their relationship had deteriorated to its worst. When she left home for college, it was partly an escape. However, after Lily was born, Eleanor seemed to change. She showed her granddaughter kindness and patience that she had never shown Amy as a child. This planted a seed of hope in Amy that, perhaps mother has truly changed. During tea on the terrace, Eleanor asked Lily many questions about school, friends, and hobbies. Amy was surprised by how interested her mother was in her granddaughter, though she couldn't shake the feeling that, "It wasn't like this during my childhood." "Actually, there's a reason I invited you both," Eleanor suddenly changed the subject. "I wanted to discuss my estate." Amy looked at her mother in surprise. "Mom, there's no need to talk about that. You're still healthy." "Of course I am," Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. "But at my age, one thinks about the future. I want to leave this vacation home to you. But this cottage is my most beloved place." Eleanor looked around. "But someday it should be passed on to someone else. I want you and Lily to spend happy times here after I'm gone." Amy was at a loss for words. Such an offer from her mother was unexpected. She expressed gratitude, but felt somewhat uncomfortable. "Well, we've talked enough," Eleanor stood up. "Let's prepare dinner. Lily, would you like to help Grandma?" Lily hesitated slightly but, encouraged by Amy's reassuring glance, followed her grandmother to the kitchen. Left alone, Amy gazed out at the garden from the spacious terrace. Was her mother's change genuine, or was there some other reason? While blaming herself for being suspicious, she felt anxiety spreading in her chest. After dinner, when Lily returned to her room, she whispered to Amy, "Mom, Grandma's a little strange. She keeps staring at me intensely." "Grandma is just happy to see you," Amy tried to reassure her daughter, but Lily's words amplified the small warning signal in her mind. Sunlight streamed into the room as Amy awoke. For a moment, she stared at the ceiling, unsure where she was. Finally remembering, oh, Mother's vacation home, she sighed deeply. In the bed beside her, Lily was still dreaming. When she went downstairs for breakfast, Eleanor was already busy moving around the kitchen. The sweet aroma of French toast filled the room. "Good morning, Mom." "Oh, Amy. You're up early." Eleanor turned around with a perfect smile. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes, soundly for the first time in ages," Amy lied. In reality, she had awakened to strange noises in the middle of the night and couldn't fall back asleep.
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
Is Lily still sleeping? Yes. I thought I'd let her sleep in since she needs her rest. As Eleanor placed a coffee cup on the table, she said, "That's right. Sleep is important for growing children." There seemed to be something calculating in her gaze. After breakfast, Amy told her mother, "I'm going for a walk in the garden." While walking around the vacation home, she thought about the noises she'd heard last night. They seemed to have come from the basement. Driven by curiosity, Amy went around to the back of the house and tried to peek into the basement through small windows. However, all windows were covered with thick curtains. Only one window at the end had a small gap through which she could see inside. The basement interior was dimly lit with blurry outlines, but Amy could make out a large table and something hanging on the wall. They looked like photographs, many photographs attached to the wall. Just as she tried to get a better look, a voice suddenly came from behind her. "What are you doing, Amy?" Amy jumped and turned around. Eleanor was standing a few meters behind her. Her expression was calm, but her eyes glinted coldly. "Oh, Mom. I was just looking around the house," Amy said hastily. "Checking if anything had changed since I was a child." "I see." Eleanor stared at her for a moment before softening her expression. "Nostalgic, isn't it? Let's go back inside." Lily is awake. Back in the house, Lily had already finished breakfast. "Good morning, Mom. Grandma's French toast was really delicious." "I'm glad you enjoyed it," Amy smiled, but her mind was still preoccupied with the basement. In the morning, the three of them drove to a nearby lake. Lily ran along the shore while Amy and Eleanor sat on a bench watching her. "You're a wonderful mother, Amy," Eleanor suddenly said. Amy looked at her mother in surprise. "Thank you, Mom. But I still have a lot to learn." "No, you're better than I was," Eleanor continued, gazing at the lake. "I was too strict. When you were a child, I should have treated you differently." Amy was speechless. She hadn't expected such a confession from her mother. "Mom. That's in the past," Eleanor waved her hand as if changing the subject. "Now, I just want you and Lily to be happy. That's why I'm leaving this vacation home to you." After returning home, Eleanor began preparing lunch. She brought out a special herbal tea from the kitchen and offered it to Amy and Lily. "This is my special blend. It has a relaxing effect." After drinking the tea, Amy felt severe headaches and nausea. She said, "I think I'll lie down for a while," and headed to her room. As she lay on the bed, she wondered, why did I suddenly feel ill? The sky visible from the window began to spin, and she eventually lost consciousness. When Amy woke up, dusk had already fallen outside. She sat up in confusion and looked at the clock. She had been asleep for 4 hours. There was a knock at the door, and Lily peeked in. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yes, I was just a bit tired." Amy noticed her headache was still lingering. "What have you been doing?" Lily entered the room and closed the door. In a small voice, she said, "Grandma is weird. She was taking lots of pictures of us. She even took pictures while I was sleeping." Amy frowned. "What do you mean?" "When I woke up, Grandma was in my room with a camera in her hand." Lily's voice trembled. "Grandma said, I just wanted to take pictures of your cute sleeping face, but..." Amy felt uneasy. However, she thought there might be a rational explanation for her mother's behavior. Maybe Grandma just wants to keep nice memories. "But Mom, Grandma walks around the house even when we're sleeping. I heard noises last night too." Amy remembered that she had also heard noises last night. She hugged her daughter and said, "Don't worry. I'm sure it's nothing," though she wasn't convinced herself. At dinner time, Eleanor was more talkative than usual. She told one story after another about the family's past, focusing particularly on happy memories from Amy's childhood. However, for Amy, those memories were completely different. The family picnics her mother described were actually events filled with strict rules and tension. Amy couldn't understand whether her mother was beautifying the past or if she truly had different memories. After dinner, Eleanor said, "I have some paperwork to organize," and retired to her room. Amy and Lily spent the evening playing board games in the living room. "Mom, let's go home tomorrow," Lily suddenly said. "Why? We've only been here one day. This house, there's something strange about it." Amy tried to understand her daughter's anxiety. "What specifically feels strange to you?" "I don't know. But I can feel it. Grandma seems to be observing us." Amy felt the same uneasiness. However, she was reluctant to give up the possibility of repairing her relationship with her mother. "Let's see how things go for one more day. If you still feel uncomfortable, we'll think about leaving early." After Lily went to bed, Amy passed by her mother's room. Light leaked from under the door, and small noises could be heard from inside. She stopped, wondering if she should knock. Suddenly, her phone vibrated, startling Amy. It was a message from her ex-husband. "I heard you're at your mother's vacation home. You shouldn't trust her too much. Let me know if anything seems off." Amy was confused after reading the message. Why was her ex-husband so cautious about her mother? Did he know something? That night, Amy was again awakened by strange noises. This time, she clearly heard footsteps going down the stairs. She slipped out of bed and peered into the hallway through a slightly open door. At the end of the dim hallway, she saw Eleanor descending the stairs. She was wearing a white nightgown and carrying something in both hands. Amy crept to the top of the stairs to identify what it was. Then Eleanor opened the basement door and went inside. Just before the door closed, Amy glimpsed countless photographs attached to the basement walls. And she noticed that some of them had been marked with something red. The next morning, Amy was thinking about what she had seen the night before. The photographs on the basement walls and the red marks. She was debating whether to confront her mother directly. But how should she broach the subject? Should she say, "Mom, what are you doing in the basement in the middle of the night?" At breakfast, Eleanor seemed more nervous than usual. She checked outside the window several times and occasionally moved her lips slightly, as if she were conversing with someone. "Mom, are you okay?" When Amy asked, Eleanor turned around in surprise. "Yes, of course. Today will be a special day," she smiled strangely. "Tonight is the full moon. It's very beautiful." Lily showed an anxious expression at her grandmother's words. After breakfast, Eleanor said, "I have some errands to run," and left in her car. When Amy and Lily were alone, they decided to investigate her mother's room. This might not be a good thing to do, but Grandma has been acting too strangely, Amy said. Eleanor's room was perfectly organized. Amy opened the dresser drawers and searched through them. Under cosmetics and trinkets, she found several medicine bottles. The labels read sedative and antipsychotic. Searching further, she discovered old newspaper clippings carefully pasted into a scrapbook. "Mom, look at this," Lily said, holding a book she had taken from the desk drawer. It was Eleanor's diary. Amy hesitated whether to open the diary, but her anxiety won out. Opening to the latest page, she found disturbing text written there. "They will follow the same fate as the others. Under the moonlight, everything will be complete. Mother and daughter. Eternal bond. Reward for betrayal." What does this mean? Amy closed the diary with trembling hands. They continued their exploration and discovered a small safe peeking through a gap in the floorboards. However, it was locked, and they couldn't check its contents. Hearing footsteps, Amy and Lily hurriedly left the room. Eleanor had returned. She was carrying large paper bags containing groceries and candles. "What were you doing?" Eleanor asked, looking at them. "Just looking for a book," Amy lied on the spot. "I see," Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Dinner will be special tonight. It's a recipe my mother taught me." Throughout the day, Eleanor's behavior became increasingly strange. She repeatedly walked around Amy and Lily, observing their movements. Occasionally, she would stroke Lily's hair and whisper, "You're such a special child." Amy sent a message to her ex-husband, "Mom is acting strange. Let me know if you know anything." But there was no reply. At dinner, Eleanor enthusiastically talked about old family traditions. "My mother valued special rituals. On full moon nights, we performed rituals to strengthen family bonds." Amy felt a chill down her spine listening to her mother's stories. She glanced at her daughter's plate, checking if anything had been mixed into the food. After dinner, Eleanor said, "I'm going to rest a bit," and retired to her room. Amy and Lily watched television in the living room, but neither could concentrate on the screen. "Let's leave here tomorrow," Amy said quietly. "First thing in the morning, we'll pack our bags." Lily nodded with a relieved expression. As the night deepened, Amy decided to have Lily sleep in her room. "Let's sleep together tonight," she suggested, and Lily happily agreed. Moonlight shone through the window, bathing the room in silver. Amy couldn't sleep and stared at the ceiling. The words from her mother's diary wouldn't leave her mind. "They will follow the same fate as the others." What did that mean? Around 2 a.m., the sound of a door slowly opening was heard. Amy lay still with her eyes closed, pretending to sleep. Footsteps approached. Through a slit in her eyelids, she saw Eleanor standing beside their bed. In her mother's hand was something, a camera perhaps, or a syringe. Amy's heart pounded violently. However, Eleanor did nothing and left the room. Amy finally exhaled. Next to her, Lily's eyes were wide open. She had been awake too. "Mom," Lily whispered in a trembling voice. "It's okay," Amy embraced her daughter. "As soon as morning comes, we'll leave immediately." But Lily's fear wouldn't subside. She whispered in Amy's ear, "Mom, there's something wrong with this house." Amy tried to laugh it off to reassure her daughter. "It's okay, Lily. Grandma just has some unusual hobbies." "No," Lily pressed closer. "Yesterday, I saw the basement. Grandma was burning something while calling our names. Some of my hair and something that might have been yours." Amy gasped. She placed her hand on her daughter's forehead and said, "As soon as morning comes, we'll pack our bags and leave. I promise." The two held each other in the darkness for a while. Eventually, perhaps from exhaustion, Lily fell asleep. But Amy couldn't close her eyes. Around 3:30, she heard the sound of a car engine outside. Amy approached the window and peered through a gap in the curtains. An unfamiliar car had stopped in front of the vacation home. The headlights illuminated Amy's face, and she hastily pulled back. "Lily, wake up," Amy shook her daughter awake. "What's wrong?" Lily rubbed her eyes sleepily. "Someone's here." The sound of a car entering the garden fully awakened them both. The car's headlights illuminated the room, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Suddenly, there was a violent knocking at the front door. "Police! Come out of that house immediately," a male voice broke the night's silence. Amy and Lily stared at each other, frozen in fear and confusion. "Police!" Lily said softly. "Get dressed," Amy quickly put on a coat over her nightgown. "Let's go." As the two descended the stairs, Eleanor was already standing at the entrance, arguing with a police officer. Eleanor appeared rough, far from her usual elegant demeanor. "You have no right. No right to enter my home," she was shouting. The officer was trying to respond calmly, but tension was escalating. When Amy approached the entrance, the officer noticed her. "Are you Amy Collins?" Amy nodded. "What's happening?" "We received a report from your ex-husband. He investigated your mother's past mental hospital admissions and contacted us out of concern for your and your daughter's safety." Eleanor's expression changed. A hint of madness appeared in her eyes, and she shouted, "Traitor! That man ruined my plans," and suddenly lunged at the officer. "Mom!" Amy cried out, but it was too late. Eleanor was holding a small knife in her hand. The officer quickly dodged and restrained her arm. "Eleanor Collins, you are under arrest." Eleanor was subdued despite her resistance. Her eyes found Amy, and she wore a sinister smile. "I was only trying to protect you, Amy. Isn't a mother supposed to protect her daughter? Forever?" Amy shielded her daughter behind her as she watched the woman she once called mother being taken away in a police vehicle. As the sound of the police siren faded into the distance, Amy and Lily were surrounded by officers. The sun was beginning to rise from the horizon, and the night's terror gradually dissipated. However, the confusion in Amy's heart, far from settling, was increasing. "Are you both all right?" A young officer offered them blankets. "Shall I call a doctor?" "No, we're fine," Amy took the blanket with trembling hands. "Just, please tell me what's going on." "The chief will explain," the officer pointed to an older male officer. A man who introduced himself as Chief Grayson approached. His expression was stern, but his eyes showed sympathy. "Ms. Collins, there are things we need to discuss about your mother's situation. But before that..." He glanced briefly at Lily. "Perhaps your daughter should rest in another room." Amy nodded, and a female officer took Lily to the living room. "We received a call from your ex-husband," Chief Grayson began. "According to him, while investigating your mother, he discovered some disturbing information." "What do you mean?" "First, we need to investigate the basement. We already have a warrant." Amy silently nodded. Inside her, her mother's abnormal behavior was beginning to connect like puzzle pieces. Descending the stairs to the basement, a heavy wooden door awaited them. When Chief Grayson opened the door, what met Amy's eyes was a horrifying scene far beyond her imagination. Photographs covered the entire wall. Most depicted mother-daughter pairs. However, they were photos of people Amy didn't know. And many were marked with red XS. "What is this?" Amy asked in a trembling voice. "It appears your mother has been tracking specific patterns of families for the past 25 years, Chief Grayson pointed to a large table in the center of the room. It was piled with records, notebooks, and newspaper clippings. "Look at this notebook." Amy fearfully opened the notebook. It contained neatly written names, dates, and locations. At the end of each entry was the word completed or failed. She quickly turned the pages. There was a photo of an unknown mother and daughter pasted there, with the note, Jennifer Wilson and daughter Sarah, June 15, 1998, completed. What does this mean? Amy's hands trembled as she closed the notebook. We haven't fully grasped the whole picture yet, Chief Grayson chose his words carefully. But most of the families named in these records are either missing or... He left the sentence unfinished. Amy noticed another door in the corner of the basement. What's in there? We haven't checked yet. As they approached the door, they found it was locked. While the chief went to get tools, Amy looked more closely at the wall photos. There were dozens of mother-daughter photographs, seemingly arranged chronologically. The oldest photos appeared to be from more than 40 years ago. Why would mother do such things? The chief returned and opened the door, releasing a strong smell of chemicals. Inside the small room, bottles of chemicals and medical instruments were arranged. In the center of the room, there was a stand set up like an altar. This seems to be some kind of ritual. The chief pointed to burn marks and candle remains on the stand. As the investigation progressed, Eleanor's past gradually came to light. The police found records with her psychiatrist. Eleanor had been diagnosed with mental illness from a young age, particularly a strong mother complex and paranoid delusions. Your mother appears to have targeted women who resembled her own mother and their daughters, explained Dr. Roberts, a psychological analyst. She was obsessed with the delusion of punishing traitorous mothers. Amy listened to the doctor's words with a stunned expression. But I am her daughter. Why would she? Actually, there's something else we need to discuss. Chief Grayson approached again. In his hand was a bundle of old documents. This is a copy of your birth certificate. Amy looked at the document and gasped. It contained a name she didn't recognize listed as birth mother. This is... We'll need to confirm with DNA testing, but it appears you are not Eleanor Collins' biological daughter. The chief's voice was quiet. She raised you as an adopted daughter. Then, my real mother is... We're still investigating, but... The chief continued, choosing his words carefully. According to records, the woman believed to be your birth mother went missing 30 years ago. And in Eleanor's notebook, there's your birth mother's name and date, followed by the word completed. Amy felt like she might collapse. So mother, my real mother. It's too early to draw conclusions, the chief supported her. But it's a possibility we're considering. More evidence was discovered one after another. Files found on Eleanor's computer recorded her actions over the past 20 years. She had selected and monitored mothers who couldn't be perfect mothers, planning at some point to punish them. Most shocking was the description about Amy and her birth mother. She will be my masterpiece. Unlike the other daughters, she is a chosen child. A child filled with my love, raised correctly. Amy read this description with trembling hands, feeling the blood freeze throughout her body. What about Lily? She suddenly asked, coming to her senses. Is Lily all right? Your daughter is safe, the chief reassured her. She's with a female officer. At that moment, one of the officers rushed in. Chief, Collins' suspect has regained consciousness at the hospital. She says she wants to talk. Amy closed her eyes and took a deep breath. I want to see her. That's not advisable. I have the right to know. Amy's voice trembled but was filled with determination. I need to hear directly from her why she did this. The chief reluctantly agreed and escorted Amy to the hospital. Entering the hospital room, Eleanor lay restrained to the bed. Her eyes emitted a strange light when she saw Amy. I knew you would come. Eleanor's voice was calm but somehow detached from reality. Why? Amy uttered just that one word. Eleanor smiled. It was eerie, yet contained her own version of affection. You were my masterpiece. Unlike the other daughters, you were loved until the end. Stability was gradually returning to Amy and Lily's lives. Eleanor's trial was ongoing, and she had been judged mentally incompetent, committed to a secure psychiatric hospital rather than prison. Amy visited psychological counselor Martha Jenkins once a week. Conversations with this warm, wise woman had become a major support in her healing process. I feel like my identity has been completely overturned, Amy confided during one session. I don't know who I am anymore. You are yourself, Martha quietly answered. Well, you can't change the past, you can decide how to live from now on. DNA test results confirmed that Amy's biological mother was a woman named Lisa Parker, who had disappeared 30 years ago at age 25. According to police investigation, Lisa was one of Eleanor's first victims. Amy began a journey to explore her roots. Although Lisa's parents had passed away, she discovered she had a sister. Carol Parker, now 55, had been searching for news of her long-missing sister for years. Their reunion was emotional. Carol burst into tears upon seeing Amy's face. You really look like Lisa. Lily showed remarkable strength amid this turmoil. She talked with her school counselor and began playing with friends again as before. Amy was grateful for her daughter's resilience while doing everything she could to protect her. Was Grandma a bad person? Lily asked one evening before bed. Amy chose her words carefully. Eleanor was sick. In her mind, she believed what she was doing was right. But she tried to hurt us, didn't she? Yes, Amy answered honestly. But thanks to your courage, we're safe now. Amy visited Eleanor once. In the hospital's strict security, she faced her through glass. Eleanor, called Mother Killer by other patients, was completely isolated. Her eyes had lost their former sharpness, and her movements were awkward from medication. Why me? Amy asked. Why did you choose me? You were special, Eleanor's voice was hoarse. Your mother was foolish. She didn't deserve to be a perfect mother. I could. The most important thing you taught me, Amy interrupted her, is that real family is bound by love, not blood. But your love was twisted. After that, Amy never saw Eleanor again. As time passed, Amy and Lily found a rhythm in their new life. They became close with Carol and, by learning about Amy's biological family history, gradually rebuilt their identities. 6 months later, on Martha's advice, Amy started a support group for people with similar experiences. There she met others with similar pasts, and they learned from each other's experiences. I am no longer a victim, she said during one group session. I am a survivor. And above all, I am Lily's mother. In their new apartment's living room, photos of Amy and Lily smiling were displayed. Next to them was a photo of Lisa Parker in her youth. Did Grandma really love us? Lily asked one day, looking at the photos. Amy put her arm around her daughter's shoulder. She loved us in her own way, I suppose. But true love doesn't control, it sets free. The evening sunlight streaming through the window gently illuminated the faces of mother and daughter. Before them stretched a new future as a family, wounded but strengthened.